Hey guys, Craig here at Squatcher1222gmail.com, searching for answers. Got another interview with Dr. John Baranchok. We're just gonna said these are just recorded conversations that we would have on a normal basis on the phone. We just decided to do them recorded. That way we can get some of this information out there and share, see what we got going on. We don't really have a big topic to discuss today. We're just going to go just see how it goes. So let's bring Dr. John on here. How you doing, buddy?
Hey, how are you, bud? Craig, nice to see you.
Yes, sir. What you been up to? Anything?
No, just kind of hanging, staying low.
That's it's hot outside.
Yeah.
Like I said, got a few things. What'd you think about that? I don't know if y'all can see it.
I saw that. That's awesome.
Not bad for a non-believer skeptic that just listened to a couple of podcasts and had 5 minutes. So
wow.
Definitely got a lot of criticism on it. It's got fangs. She's going to rework it and see if she can do something without it. But I thought it was killer. Awesome.
Yeah. You know, on my book cover, the Bigfoot I had on my book cover there, I chose to include slightly enlarged canines as well. Not to that degree, but, you know, some people have claimed to see them with canines. Most people have not.
Yeah, and again, it's just a sketch and I've watched her work. It's pretty amazing. I mean, just because she's got them in there at this point, don't mean they'll be there. Those are just like her guidelines. That's just out of a brown pencil. You know, she had 5 minutes, so she threw that together real quick. I thought it was looking really cool.
That's
awesome. Yeah, like you said, I've heard tons of encounters where they have fangs. They could or they could not. It could just be what they perceive, I guess, at the moment. If they feel it's scary, of course, anything's going to be enlarged. You know, like some of us have larger canine teeth than others. You know, maybe they could be over dramatized or something. But yeah, I thought it was cool.
Yeah. Yet another topic that we have our imaginings, but we really don't know.
Yeah, we don't know anything. I mean, it could be unless somebody has one that they're studying that nobody knows. But I've got just a few questions that we've got them up. This is, does Bigfoot have a tail? And I don't think they meant like a tail, like a long tail, like a German Shepherd or like a lion or something. But I think it's more like a degree of, could it be possible, like a pit bull's got docked tails or whatever, it's still got some sort of a tail. Have you ever heard anything? And people had tails.
There you go. You just answered your question. You just gave my answer to your question. Human beings have vestige tails to this day, and that's called your sacrum. The below your lumbar, in the lowest part of your back. A lot of people are familiar with low back injuries in the lumbar area, but the structures below that finish off your spinal column is called the sacrum, and that's the evolutionary vestige of our tails. So we have the sacrum itself is kind of a form of a vestige tail. I have never heard one way or another about Bigfoot having be it a vestige tail like a human or or a bobbed tail or chopped tail like they do with dogs. So I haven't heard anything about that one way or another.
I haven't heard either. I mean, you don't really hear a lot of these different kind of examples unless you're just looking for them too. It's not like everybody knows they're covered in hair, but it's when you listen to some of these more detailed events, not the super famous ones, but like your local events, they seem to notice a little bit more. And I didn't know if you had heard anything. Like I said, it was just a thought.
Yeah,
who knows? this may be down your alley with your past education and experience. Do you think that they use or have more or less or the same? Like, you know how we have a reptilian part of our brain. You think that their brains could have more of that, or they've adopted less of that, or anything
Yeah,
like that? You think there's any kind of thought to that, or is that just one of those out there, hard to even experiment with kind of thoughts?
well, so I guess it depends. The easy answer to that is if you buy into the evolutionary theory and total flesh and blood, and if that's the case, you look at the great apes and their brain, and they of course have the primitive part of their brain, but they also have what's called the neocortex, which is the gray matter in their brain. So I would imagine if if that's how these beings are based, or in what they're based, and that's a big if in my mind, but um, I would think they would have a neocortex, to be, again, I think in a previous show we talked about whether they were sentient or not, and I do think they're sentient. I think, you could deduce or infer that they're self-aware, but we don't have much evidence of that, I guess, except for possibly grooming. That picture of Janice is of the that Almasty from Russia with the blonde dreadlocks.
Yeah.
He displayed, according to Janice, at least, he displayed vanity. He liked his dreadlocks bleached blonde, and so used a root to bleach his dreadlocks. And so that if that in fact is the case, that would suggest some self-awareness. You got to have self-awareness to have vanity. So, and again, I'm bringing those things up because they involve higher cortical functioning. They involve the neocortex of the brain, not just the primitive brain.
So I'm trying hard not to interrupt. You said
I saw that feedback.
But on it, and we'll bring that up too. I wanted to touch on that. I hope that they didn't take that as a smart aleck comment when I replied back. I've literally never thought of myself as a host, because in my mind, these are just like, this is just a recorded conversation, and this is how we are. But I am hosting it, so I need to. Yeah, I'd never thought of that before. That was great feedback.
But you can interrupt if you need to. If
this
if this was us talking on the phone, you'd be interrupting. So
yeah, I know. You can see. So back to the self-aware and stuff. I think I touched on it before, but not with in one of these conversations. Just a thought. Do you think they have to know what they look like in order to hide so well, right? Or to know that they can be still and not be seen? You think they have to be some kind of aware of that, you think? Or is that not the same?
Yeah, I don't think necessarily. I think that's a reasonable hypothesis. But then I think about, for example, bears and cats, big cats, how they can blend in. And I'm not sure if bears have self-awareness. I don't know if that's ever been examined or studied. Big cats the same. So again, I think a good hypothetical question. I'm not sure that I really have a firm conclusion, I guess, would be the my response.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like if they know to hide themselves, or they know they can just drop into a tree stump or something like that, I feel like they have
What
to know something.
what if that's instinct though, Craig? What if that's a genetically pre-programmed um, sequence of behavior?
Kind of similar to how like a fox or a cat, when startled, they first drop down low to the ground and don't
Mm-hmm.
move. So maybe
Yeah.
the same thing. So do you
Or
think they know they're as big as they are? You know how like a small dog thinks it's really big, and you got a big dog that thinks it's little. Do
Bigfoot's,
you think?
I don't have any foundation to base that upon, really. I mean, that would just be, uh, again, I would come back to if the pictures that Janice has shared, you know, I would come back to vanity on that. To me, vanity suggests an awareness of self. But beyond that, you're asking me to get inside their heads and analyze and know what they think. And
That's your
I,
job.
I don't I don't think we're there yet. I don't think we're there yet. I really don't.
I guess that kind of goes, and you keep bringing up Janice, and I will too. And like I said, do you think they know how big they are and stuff? And I guess they know their strength, but I guess they also know how to be real docile and fragile, if you believe Janice's story and stuff, and other people's accounts of how they've touched them and not actually crushed them to death. You remember that old cartoon? I just want to hug them and squeeze them, and
Yeah, that's a good point.
they would have to, I guess, know they have the dexterity to know their
That would
strength, I guess.
that would suggest, being able crushing some things and then being gentler with other things. Do you think dogs have self-awareness? I'm flashing back to how um, mother dogs discipline their young, and they'll nip at them, or they'll grab them by the nape of the neck in their teeth and move them, but they won't necessarily tear them up.
Mm-hmm.
So is that maternal instinct, or is that self-awareness of how hard they bite, and that they've got to not bite as hard with their young, is I
Well,
guess the place I'm going
I
to.
don't think it's maternal because, for instance, my neighbor's dog, he comes over here all the time, and when he plays with me, he's rough as all get out. But then when my 2-year-old comes over and he wants to play with him, I mean, he will just barely touch him. And then when he does touch him, he puts zero weight on him, just because he knows I got to be gentle because this is a smaller. I don't think it's maternal. But now I don't think all dogs have that same trait, and that kind of goes into where I was talking the other day about the densities. If you believe in that kind of stuff, there's levels to this,
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know, like the Bigfoot not being able to crush things, and they have dermal ridges like us, supposedly. I feel like they have to know something. And if Janice is right that they're a type of people, and she's not the only one that says this, but
Sure.
um, I think that's, I don't know if that would be linked to self-awareness, but I think it's linked to something.
Yeah, well, they clearly have a sense of others. It seems to me that they are separate from others, so they have some kind of sense of boundaries. Again, I'm not sure what that means about self-awareness. It would suggest some self-awareness, um, and she also talks about how certain roles are defined within the clan or within the tribe.
Yeah.
Medicine man, searchers, hunters. So all that would be consistent with higher cortical functioning, higher brain, gray matter brain activity that would typically include self-awareness. But again, that's just a big old deduction with,
There's not been enough studies or been able
right, right.
to deep dive into this.
I mean, and that's not to say you can't use deductions, but deductions should form your hypothesis that you test with, that you use to do your test. So those kinds of observations, coming up with those ideas and generating those hypotheses, and that's kind of what we've been doing in answering these questions. We're really kicking around ideas and studies that need to be done to be able to say that with any kind of scientific certainty.
Well, this at first I thought was totally off topic, but maybe it is the same thing. It's an experiment that I've been thinking about, and I've not heard anybody do this experiment. So it involves the guitar, or people go out in the woods and they play the guitar or whatever. I've yet to find exactly what style of music people are playing. I've heard different things. And then I want to know if they're singing or not when they're playing these. But I guess what I want to say is I want to figure this out, but I can try this. This is like a long experiment. What I want to do, I want to set up a trail cam or some kind of cam out and a recorder out and kind of put my back to it or face it or whatever, just be in view of it. Go out one evening, play my guitar for a couple hours or 30 minutes or 5, whatever is the recommended dosage, agreed upon amount, and kind of that style of music. Leave, come back, go through the motions again, couple times, same thing. And maybe like the third time, leave my guitar out in the woods. I don't know if anybody, I'm not saying that this is a boom, groundbreaking experiment. I don't know if anybody's done that, but I'm curious to see if I left the guitar, showed them playing. If they say music brings them around, what would happen if I left a guitar out in the woods? Would they play it too? Would they overcome their fear of a camera possibly to play it for their curiosity? Or is that it? Have you ever heard of anything like that? Or
no, I never heard of anything like that. I think you kind of touched on one of the issues, and this isn't to say it's not a worthwhile experiment, or couldn't be done or shouldn't be done, but the recommended dosage.
Yeah.
Okay. So what is the recommended dosage of how long to play guitar or what kind of music to play on a guitar? So, those things are unknown. We don't have a baseline for that. Okay.
Right.
So, as I know you do, you would have to keep careful notes on how long you played and what kind of music you played and so on and so forth. I would suggest, well, I'm not trying to steer you away from your study, but I would query, do we really even know that it's the playing of the guitar that is drawing them in? We've never done a study, how, so, you go out on your expedition, somebody brings along your guitar, they're playing the guitar, and lo and behold, you start getting activity. How do you know you wouldn't have gotten that activity had you waited a little longer and not played the guitar? You follow me?
Yeah, so that would kind of, I guess.
So is it our presence that they're responding to, or is it the guitar music they're responding to?
Well, wouldn't this kind of almost go along with both? So say I go out there, I don't know, a certain time, play for 30 minutes, um, whatever, put the guitar down, do my little deal, like maybe eat a sandwich or whatever, and then leave, get my guitar, leave, come back, do the same thing, place the guitar down. So it's like when I do leave the guitar the last time, I'm actually looks like I just forgot it. So then I would see if they come to the guitar, then it might be the guitar. So their brain would be functioning like inquisitive toward what's making that. And would they be drawn to see if the guitar made the noise or if I made the noise or.
And is it because they're drawn to the guitar or because the guitar represented a novel stimuli that they want to check out?
Right. That so like an interest in what's making this noise.
Mm-hmm.
And
and that again, not pushing your study in a different direction, but that could be fairly easily examined in any number of ways. One group going to a location that they know is hot and active with no guitar and timing how long it is till they get action. And another group going to another area where they know it's really hot, getting there and immediately playing the guitar and seeing how long it takes for them to get action. So you're comparing a non-guitar group to a guitar group. Or if you want to eliminate the difference in the locations, maybe the Bigfoot are more active in one location than another. Go there, spend 20 minutes, 30 minutes doing nothing or whatever you would normally do on an expedition. And if you don't get any activity after that 30 minutes, then play the guitar for 30 minutes. See if you get any action. Go silent for 30 minutes. See if you get any change in action. And so you can examine through those kind of studies, making the guitar the independent variable, the variable that you're manipulating. You can get a better, I think, a better glimpse at that.
Yeah. Yeah, it was just a thought. I didn't have any direction in it, more so just the multiple length that time frame, and then leaving the guitar out because most people are really real partial to their guitars and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I am too, but the guitar that I would leave out, I've lit it on fire, threw it across beaches. It's still a good guitar, so why not bring that kind of vibe to it? I mean,
sure.
It's not. It hurts it kind of deal.
Yeah, and another condition you could include is bringing the guitar, not playing it, but leave it.
The first time,
I'm not sure. Somewhere in that sequence, because is it just a novel thing being there, or is it the sound of the music? And if they're not drawn to the sound of the music, but you leave the guitar, that leans a little bit more towards the novelness of the guitar itself.
as just being any other toy, not actually making music.
Yes.
But I would think if they were drawn to the music over the novelty, as you're putting it, if they came to the music, that would show intelligence, right? Because that would be them understanding art, perhaps.
No, I don't think that would show intelligence.
What animals come to music? Is it? Well, I guess never mind. I hadn't really thought about it because you got the snake charmers and stuff. So I guess
that shows awareness of their environment, and awareness. You need awareness to have intelligence, but just awareness and an orienting response to sound is no way a sign of intelligence.
Okay.
Your dog, again, using the example of a dog, your dog will orient to a sound, be it a guitar or a novel sound. They'll orient just because that's a behavioral instinct. That's a fundamental thing we have.
So perhaps then all these stories and all these people talking about, we go out and play music, play guitar to draw them in. It it is not even so far. It's just them being out there.
Well, again, I don't think we know that for a fact. I mean, I've been on expeditions where somebody brought their guitar and we didn't have any activity, and another group that went out that night without a guitar had activity.
Hmm.
So you're trying to prove a correlational or a causal link between playing guitar and them coming in, or that drawing their attention. And again, you got to have some control group of no guitar to be able to show that the guitar is having a significant influence. Because if you go to a habituation area, or where the Bigfoot is, and 10 minutes in you start playing the guitar, you don't know if that activity would have come again if you didn't start playing the guitar, or because you started playing the guitar. So you have no way to know for sure whether they're responding to your presence, whether they're responding to just random noise, or specifically the guitar. And you've got to be able to isolate the human presence as one variable and then the guitar as another to know for sure. Does that make sense? You don't look like you're following me, and you usually do.
Yeah, no, I am. I'm just trying to hold my thoughts in.
Okay.
Yeah, no, that's like I say with that experiment. I mean, it literally just popped in my head right before.
Yeah.
So I haven't given it much thought. Just like I said, all I had was that base principle of just going out, trying it, and because I don't want to carry my guitar through the woods for 100, just more to a spot that I could go so it looks like I'm just kind of hanging out like in a field out, like I know of a couple places where I can go. It's half a mile walk and I'm surrounded by woods, but I'm in a field that, I could tuck in there or something. And that way I hide the guitar so it's, people don't know I'm there, but far enough off the trail and off the roads that it's not blatantly obvious to humans. But I knew it would be like a multi-staged thing. I just didn't know if you thought where you felt on science aside. I know we're all about science, but we would have to get some kind of reason to even do a scientific study like you're saying.
Well, yeah. So, so here we go. As you know, and many of my old viewers know, I'm pushing science, and in particular, experimental psychological science and statistical analysis, to get some hard numbers on these things. If I was going to answer that question as an experientialist or a naturalist, yeah, I think we've got enough reports, anecdotal reports, that sometimes, or a lot of times, Bigfoot show up when people play the guitar. But that's the difference between empirical observations, and scientific experimentation. With that observation, you have no way of isolating that guitar as an independent variable, because it's bound to the presence of the human beings. So you got to do something to differentiate the influence of the guitar from the influence of the human beings. Does that make sense?
Yeah, right. But like what I was saying is, just the stories and the anecdotal itself are the basis to start an experiment. Is what I was meaning. Or, it wasn't like I was just like, hey, let's go play a guitar and see what happens. It was kind of like, is that a good starting point to start our research at? Is based on those anecdotes and stuff, we could say, at least that's a good idea to start here.
Look into. Yeah. I think we've got enough anecdotal evidence for that to develop a hypothesis and then an experiment based on that hypothesis to test that out.
Yeah. yeah, that's kind of, I guess, where I was leaning to, just to see if that was even worth my time to do, or if I needed to just throw that on the back burner and come up with something else. I'm just trying to think, like I said, just something different, something I don't really follow a lot of set in stone ways that people do. Like I've told you before, I've got you, I've got Janice, I've got, you know, a million other people telling me different ideas, and I'll try them to a T, or I'll try and blend them, or I'll try my own take on them just different times and see, you know, see what I get there. But I'm documenting all of it, like you say, and then I can compare the two, like we were talking before about just trying to have any kind of experience. So each time I didn't want to limit myself to one road, you know, by my intentions and stuff. I wanted to try, and because, you know, you got people that have been doing this for 100 years, not literally, but that never have seen anything, but they're set in their ways. I don't think you'll ever achieve your overall result or a broader result if you stick to that same path. If you could fork off a little bit but keep going, I think, you know, and
you got to think out. You got to do something to think outside the box for sure, because the way we've been doing research for the past 60 plus years has been a dramatic failure in terms of being able to prove the species. We haven't proven squat. And so, yeah, you got to think outside the box and bring different approaches to it. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I've seen, I didn't think about this until literally just now. And that's how all our conversations go. But like, I see on a lot of these different Facebook groups and stuff, like, it looks like there's a kind of a new guard and an old guard of Bigfoot. Like the new guard is coming in and just learning as they go, but they have access to so much more, but they're kind of doing things different, and it's kind of rustling feathers. And the old guard that said, no, you have to follow these four set in stone ways, or it's not a Bigfoot. You have to do this. And you got the newer people coming up that are kind of blending that, and like you know, bringing different fields into it instead of just one certain thing. And I think that we just got to lend and listen to everyone and kind of try different things, because like you just said, the same research for 60 plus years and has yielded nowhere.
Yeah.
Yet that same people are holding down the new up and comers. I mean, it could be for the fame or whatever, but I think a lot of it is just the old guard is putting out these comments and this energy toward the new people that it just instantly shuts them down, where I don't think it should. I think we got to broaden that horizon. I mean, that's not to say we're not simplifying the research, like I like to say. I mean, we can use the science to simplify, but that's just in terms is what I'm getting at there. Like, we don't have to have 50 different words for one thing.
So I'm not sure exactly who you include in the old guard, but I've been hearing whisperings over the internet coming out of whisperings over Facebook coming out of conferences where certain individuals only want something that's concrete and something you can put your finger on, or you could see, or you could touch. And so tossing out things like anecdotes, sightings, things of that nature. And so is that what you're referring to?
No, just like, I mean, I don't really have just a direction. It just seems like it's like these guys that have been in the field for so long, and it's took them 25 years to get where they're at and get to this point in their research. And you've got Joe Blow down the street here that just stumbled upon it by they got it, you know, whatever. And they've got the same evidence as this guy's got, but it took this guy 5 minutes to find it. But he's doing it different, or a different way, or a different style, but getting better results. It seems like these other guys that work so hard to get where they're at I can't give you examples. It's just broad reaches is what I'm getting. It just feels like it's a down energy right now in Bigfoot. It seems like no one's really helping anyone, or if you're not going the right way, if you're a alternative or whatever, and I don't even know how to really describe it. I'm just rambling, but it just seems like if you're not going down this certain guy's path, not a certain guy. I mean, just, for examples, like it just seems so political right now. I guess you'd say
Yeah.
it's not. No one is really. It's not Bigfoot anymore. No one's Bigfooting. No one's squatching. Everyone is saying what you did is wrong. You should do what I did. Pay me. Come do all that. Everybody's doing this, but where's all the research at? Like,
Yeah.
I understand a lot of this stuff takes time, but it's not happening.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, so my bias on this topic. We've been doing naturalistic empirical observation research for the past 60 plus years, where our goal has been to get out into the field and see Bigfoot, hopefully get a picture of Bigfoot, maybe cast a print of Bigfoot, maybe record a howl of Bigfoot. The primary goal is to capture an image or capture the creature, but we also focus on the phenomena. And I think most people still are following that model. And I think that's the very model that's got us stuck. And which is why I wrote my book, because experimental psychology gives you a way we're already focused on the phenomena. Experimental psychology gives you a way to use those phenomena and quantify them into numbers that can be analyzed and test the hypotheses we've been assuming. And so my bias is, until we get out of this rut that we're doing with the empirical observational research, not that that shouldn't be done, but that's the first step to scientific discovery. Well, not the first step. The first step is just observing things, and then observing multiple things reoccurring. And so observation and coming up with ideas is the first step towards scientific discovery. But the next step is to take those ideas, change them into a hypothesis, and do an experiment to either support the hypothesis or refute the hypothesis. And that's what nobody is doing in Bigfoot. Not, I shouldn't say nobody. Maybe there's some folks out there doing that I'm not aware of, but
just not pushed. It's not.
Yeah, but until we shift out of, here I go, going to make some enemies. I think Madison Avenue commercialism and celebrity is what's driving the Bigfoot field right now. I don't think it's research at all. I think there's a lot of money, a lot of celebrity to be made in promoting, or as I call it, pimping Bigfoot. And I think that's what's driving the field right now. And until we stop listening to Madison Avenue, the guy selling all the FLIRs and all the, I guess the latest and greatest is the, what are those things that fly up called?
The drones.
The drones. The drones now with the LiDAR radar and this kind of radar. And I think we've been sold a bag of goods through Madison Avenue and the tech companies, because again, maybe not 60 years, but we've been throwing tech at Bigfoot like the latest and greatest cameras, the latest and greatest viewers, night vision, FLIR, LiDAR, and that still hasn't brought us any closer. But yet, we're for some reason we're hooked in that if we just get, if we can just get this camera or this recorder, we're going to get that image of Bigfoot that's going to prove it. If the Patterson-Gimlin images don't prove it, I don't know what image is going to, because it's pretty clear from that from those images what's going on there. So to me, and I said it on my show, unless you're including photographs or recordings within the context of a scientific experiment, just going out there and taking a picture of Bigfoot or doing a recording of what could be a howl of Bigfoot isn't going to move us forward towards proving the species existed. We've got to do something to prove causality in any science. We're trying to prove Bigfoot caused that footprint. Bigfoot caused that howl. Bigfoot caused that tree break. The only way in science to prove causality is through experimentation. And until we start doing experimentation, we're not going to be able to prove causality.
There's a lot to unpack with what you were saying. I mean, like, first of all, we're not, when you're saying pimping Bigfoot, like, you're not meaning the people that are putting it out there, like, in a good way, like podcasters that, they're actually the good podcasters that are putting out the stories or putting out the, the names of people. It's the people that are doing it solely to get rich, solely for the money of it. Because, I mean,
how do you split that hair?
Well, you can just tell by who they are, I guess. Like, by a sense of, have they lost touch? Does that make sense?
Has a podcast ever led to the discovery of something significant related to Bigfoot that moved us forward as getting us closer to proving it as a species?
If you could say that it got people interested and got more people out in the field, perhaps. That's why, like I say, I don't know that I like some of what you were saying. I could say is obviously opinion based, because I'm a big against money. You know that I don't do money at all. But like, I get some people that are really big into the money. They want to get into this, and they want to. Some of these podcasts are the best way for them to hear about it, or some people don't have a chance to get out and actually live in the woods and do it. So I guess they can live vicariously through people. But people that are, like you say, are pimping it, I guess be hard to really. It's hard to split hairs with what you say, but then.
Well, what's the primary motivation? It doesn't seem that tough to me. On an individual basis, yes, it's tough. But on a grander scale, it's not that tough. What's the primary motivation that you're doing what you're doing?
For me?
No, not you. Oh. Anyone doing anything. Is it to make money? Or is it to benefit the species?
Yeah.
I don't think that's too tough of a distinction to make in a lot of cases.
Yeah. I don't know where we were going after that. You said something toward the end of that or your sentence.
We were talking pimping Bigfoot and how that what's driving the research and the old guard versus the new guard, and
that's the whole thing with this. Like, I mean, I guess you'd consider this now a podcast or whatever, but I'm not getting any money for it or anything like that. And I'm not trying to push certain people. My whole thing is like, this is just a conversation, whether we agree or we disagree. We're putting out knowledge that me and you have. I'm not saying we know more than anyone else, but
sure,
some of these conversations get people thinking and can get people steered in the right direction. But, some of them, some people we may get negative comments on or whatever, but I think it's all about just sharing. My thing is sharing the information, not sharing the wealth, sharing the information. And if the wealth is a wealth of information, then yes, let's share that wealth. But I agree with you. I don't think money is gonna fix this. Now, I have seen some really cool pictures and some really cool evidence with some really expensive high-tech stuff, and it's really awesome. But money did get that, but I don't know that they couldn't have had that same sighting without that. Like you say, there's no experiment or evidence to prove if it was the equipment or if it was them in their presence or whatever. But like, I do technology is helping, but I also think technology is hurting. I think we should go back to some of these simpler cameras, like the little disposable jobs, because I mean, you can see it with our iPhones or Samsung Galaxy or whatever. You zoom in real far, they pixelate, and it just kind of makes up what's there. So we're always going to get a blurry picture if that's what we're using for our cameras and stuff. So
yeah. I just don't know. And I think one of the frustrations in my former podcast, Grasping Sasquatch, was that I think there's a small group of people that understand we need to go science. But I don't think as a whole community, I don't think we appreciate that we need to go scientific if we're going to prove anything. And I guess the irony for that, for me, is what's the mission? When Patterson Gimlin film was rejected, they wanted the people who were rejecting it said we need scientific evidence. And so imagine that, using science to get scientific evidence, but we're not using the right science, so we're not going to get that scientific evidence to prove it. And so that people continue to go out there, again, not building much of a following here, but that people continue to go out there and try and capture a photo of Bigfoot, or try and capture a recording, or try and capture some kind of radar image of Bigfoot. If you're doing that for yourself and for your own edification, for show and tell, for saying, being able to prove that you've seen a Bigfoot, have at it. But don't delude yourself into thinking that you're going to capture that image of Bigfoot that proves them as a species, because that's not going to happen.
Well, I mean, you just said it. I was going to change gears, but by changing gears, you literally just said it. So the Patterson Gimlin film didn't prove anything because it was just a video. But I guess I have trouble with the Patterson Gimlin film. And it's not, the reason I have trouble with it is because, for instance, that sketch, that we talked about and I've posted, the only comment was that it doesn't have fangs. That looks nothing like Patty at all. Absolutely nothing. When you look at the Jack Link Sasquatch, that doesn't look like Patty. I've never, and you hear all these people when they see on their stories, like, well, it didn't look like Patty, but it had to be a Bigfoot and this, or it looked like a person. And so I guess that's my problem with the Patterson Gimlin footage is, I'm not saying that's not an animal, but most people that I actually hear, they literally say it doesn't look like that.
Yeah. A lot of people are talking about, oh God, I wish I could, I saw some post where somebody's defining like 30 different subspecies or 67 different subspecies of Bigfoots.
Oh, I haven't heard that.
But more reasonable, in my opinion, some people are talking about some subspecies of Bigfoot. Thinking of forest, a lot of people talk about forest people. And when these folks talk about forest people, these seem to be the more human-like and interactive Bigfoots. But you also hear people talk about a more primitive, more animal-like Bigfoot as well. And so that makes me, in reference to the Patty film, could Patty represent a subspecies of Bigfoot distant from the forest people, who I think, we're seeing more and more images of Bigfoot portrayed as the forest people than we're seeing as the primitive beast.
Yeah, I've heard some people say there's like 4 types or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still hard to wrap your head around until you see one. I mean, you hear Janice, for example, she talks about a lot of them that look like they have Down syndrome, or a lot of people's reports are their faces are much larger, their eyes are more offset, like how we have like a 1 finger gap between our nose and our lip. They have the 2. Of course, you can kind of see that now that MK Davis has done his new thing with the patty film. You can see that space in where it drops the mouth down, and you can kind of see how it's wider, but she's covered in hair. But you hear most of your reports, they say there was no hair on the face. And it just, I mean, I'm not saying, like I said, I'm not saying that that's not showing a real animal. I'm saying I could see how people have a problem with that, because I have a problem with that. I do believe that's an animal, but that's not what I expect to see when I go out to see a Bigfoot, or to have, if I have an experience, like I wish I could find it. Like there's a lemur, I can't remember the name of it, but a lemur, I think I've shown you a picture of it, that looks exactly like a human, but you can tell it the way its skin is. It's a monkey. And I meant to touch on this with Janice, and I'd heard about the Melba study, Melba Ketchum study, that the closest relative that they had heard on the paternal side, on the male side, was a lemur. Not saying the lemur was a father, but that was the closest representation that they could get of something. And I wish I could find this lemur and remember the name of it, but it literally looks like a human being, but then it has like a mane around it. And that's kind of what I'm picturing with some of these maybe forest people type. And then you see some of this other type, like I say, they have the Down syndrome or whatnot. And you can see people with Down syndrome, they kind of have that protruding jaw just a little bit. I'm not trying to stereotype or put down anyone. I mean, I see where they're coming from, and I kind of put that together in my head. But I don't ever picture Patty. And that could just be me. I don't know. That could just be the stories that I'm hearing, or what's maybe my area. But I just don't picture Patty at all when I think Bigfoot. I think more of the long hair. But that's just me.
I bet you could get 100 people who have never seen Bigfoot and ask them to draw a picture of Bigfoot. And while I don't think you would get 100 different images, I think you'd get quite a few differing images, because we all have this image of Bigfoot in our mind. You just described yours. I put mine on the cover of my book, and even people have seen Bigfoot, unless they've seen multiple Bigfoot. And even if they've seen multiple Bigfoot, you can't necessarily say that the group of Bigfoots in the Southeast is going to look identical to Bigfoots in the Northwest, for example. Again, I don't think we've done close enough work to be able to do those comparisons.
Yeah, I agree. That's a lot to think about. I think you got anything else you want to touch on?
No, nothing coming to mind.
Nothing. This was like you said before, kind of a lower energy. We're both kind of under the weather. We both got things going on. Again, this is how it is, guys. Some of these phone calls, they're not all, excitement and all ups and daisies. Some of them are just conversations, and that's what this is. This show's about. We're searching for answers. We're grasping for answers with the doctor. We're just trying to get information out. Guys, I don't ever say it, but like and subscribe, share this stuff if you like it. Get in touch with the doctor if you like what he's doing. You can reach me at squatcher1222@gmail.com or on Facebook. Doc, you got anything else you want to say?
I've just got my own personal. It's not even a big. I guess it's turning into a Bigfoot site since I started and completed my podcast. But I'm on Facebook, and so I've got. I don't even know my address, to be honest with you. But my email address is John S. Baranchok at yahoo.com if you want to contact me there. I'm pretty interactive on Facebook. I go through phases where I just don't want anything to deal with it, but I stay pretty active on Facebook. And
I think, like I say, I noticed that too with our energy, with just the whole field. It's kind of up and down and up and down. I think the energy in a whole right now is kind of in a lull right now, and I think, like you say, you go through your spurts of interactive, and and you're not. And I think it's just happening right now.
yeah. But I'm glad to come on again anytime, and I enjoy conversations as well, whether they're on the phone or on the screen.
Yeah, like I say, guys, this was just spontaneous. So we both had time to call, so we said, let's record it. Let's see what we can do. It might go somewhere, it might not. We might glean some information out. When we do, we don't. But as always, guys, any questions, comments, concerns, you can hit us up on here, Facebook, Gmail, whatever. As always, it's been a pleasure, Doc. Thanks again.
Pleasure's mine. Thank you.